Hello there, kia ora. Monday was a fascinating day for highlighting how much influence the world of politicians can have on influencing how our media operate and some of the very different levers that they can use to do so. From a media theorist perspective, there were actually a couple of different things that happened to showcase this. The first was a report from RNZ about Casey Costello releasing redacted information under the OIA. Back in December, Costello gave health officials a document calling Labour's smoke free laws nanny state nonsense. Not like the nanny state nonsense of making beneficiaries have a payment card that has half their benefit put on and a list of where they can shop. No, it's a very different sort of nanny state, apparently. It's really hard to keep track. Anyway, Costello denied the document existed at the time to both media and written questions from Labour's health spokesperson, Dr. Aisha Viral. But now she released a redacted version of it under the OIA and claimed she has no idea who wrote it. The chief ombudsman was called in and said Costello had acted contrary to law, so she had to release it, and is still claiming she doesn't know who wrote it, only that they didn't work in her office. It's kind of weird, a whole bunch of things she didn't know just mysteriously happening for a former police detective. Now, this is where the media practice gets interesting. You see, our media has a code of compliance in place that means that they can only report on facts that are verifiable. With only a redacted version to use, that's all RNZ could report on. But a leaker had provided them with the untampered version, which shows tobacco industry talking points like comparing nicotine to caffeine and removing tax on heated tobacco products. Costello had given a reason for her redactions and said it was because it protects the confidentiality of advice tendered by ministers, which is a legal term for I just didn't want you guys to see it. And she's still claiming to not know exactly where that advice came from. Those rules about verifiable information, though, are clearly something that the minister was keen to use to hide damning evidence of connections to the tobacco industry in their talking points. At the other end of the day, though, we got a guilty verdict for a high profile political figure on historic charges of sexual assault. This case has been a long time coming, and name suppression is still in place when I'm filming this, so we got to follow the rules. And our suppression laws are pretty airtight and mean that there's legally no way media or anyone can publicly name any of the individuals or anything that can directly reference anything that makes them identifiable in relation to the case until that suppression is lifted. And that is actually one of the reasons why name suppression was extended last year. With the election on, there was a risk of this case directly impacting the election outcomes. Well, that's what the defense lawyers successfully argued. And because of this, it limits what our media can say. They can give case details, but nothing that would name anyone and nothing that may influence the jury, which is why it was revealed that the leader of the party this individual is associated with was made aware of the allegations months before the individual resigned from the party. Now, to be fair here, those allegations were made through an online contact form on the party Facebook page with no way to corroborate at the time, so the party didn't take any known actions. But knowing that during the election, a story would come out of pre-existing knowledge of the allegations is a pretty motivating factor for a party to ensure name suppression was kept in place. Because most people only read the headlines before making a decision. It's actually called the science post effect. So yesterday, we saw two examples of political power and influence and how it can manipulate media in different ways, which has to work within certain rules to control narratives. It's not new, it's not uncommon, but it is something to be aware of going forward with any news story that you come across. There are rules in place about how our media do their job, and trust me, this kind of thing has got to be frustrating for everybody. But ultimately, it's all designed to ensure that what is reported is verifiable.